After eating some dry rations to stave off hunger, I continued on with Mr. Chen. In fact, Mr. Chen isn't heavy at all. He almost weighs nothing but a skeleton with only about 70 to 80 jin of air. Until I passed by a village, I found an old man in the village to ask for directions. The old man can't understand what I'm saying. Widow Zhang communicated with the elder in Miao language and quickly reached a conclusion. Widow Zhang translated the old man's words for me. She said that Laodong Miao village is not far from here. I told her, "You are going there to seek the Wuyi." The old man said that life and death are of utmost importance. She could use an ox cart to burn us along the way. This ending surprised me. I returned, and the old man drove the ox cart along the way. Mr. Chen unexpectedly woke up in the radio waves. Mr. Chen woke up and asked me what happened. I told him what happened last night. Mr. Chen did not show much surprise at Waikun saving us. Mr. Chen's gaze clearly changed when he looked at Widow Zhang beside him. I understand what he means. Widow Zhang has likely become a living curse, and it's very possible that she is the spy left by Lai Gan among us. Mr. Chen and I tacitly agreed not to expose him. After the ox cart stopped at the foot of a mountain, the old man exchanged a few words with Widow Zhang before he was about to leave. Widow Zhang told us that the old cave Miao village is just ahead on the mountain. Looking in that direction, there was a road leading up the mountain with terraced fields on both sides. The Miao village is faintly visible in the distance. I helped Mr. Chen climb up the mountain, and each step he took was very difficult. Mr. Chen stopped outside the village. "And Xiangxi, I am a member of the Xuanmen sect. Without the permission of the ancient king, one cannot enter the territory of the ancient Miao people." Mr. Chen waited for us outside the village. Mr. Chen, Widow Zhang also stayed to take care of Mr. Chen. I wasn't at ease, but Mr. Chen urged me to go in quickly and not to worry about him. The path was blocked by a fence in front of the village, and I pushed it open to enter. The wooden houses nestled against the mountain were dense, giving off an ancient vibe. What truly puzzled me was that after walking for a while, I didn't encounter a single person. What is going on here? I wandered through the village in confusion until I heard an ancient and desolate melody reminiscent of a ritual. I suspect the villagers have gathered to hold some kind of ritual activity. Following the direction of the sound, a clan hall appeared in the distance with music emanating from within, the lively tunes played on Miao instruments. Dozens of villagers dressed in traditional attire kneeled before a statue. The lively musicians are dancing as if alive. They must be honoring their ancestors. I curiously stepped closer and looked into the ancestral hall. Where the ancestor being worshipped was a creature with a human body and a cow's head adorned with two sharp horns. The statue in front of me first reminded me of Niu Mo Wang, but I knew it was definitely not him. It was Chiyu, the ancestor of the Miao people. My appearance drew the attention of the villagers performing the ritual, and their gazes were not friendly. It seems my uninvited arrival is not welcomed. I smiled and nodded at them. "You all continue. I won't interrupt. I will just step back." An old man in a black robe suddenly pointed at me and asked, "This friend, may I know your name? Why did you interrupt our ancestral offering?" He could tell at a glance that I was not an ordinary person. The old man in front of me was clearly a powerful figure from the Wu clan. I boldly revealed my grandfather's title, Lai Lao San, a disciple of the Ghost Path, here to seek an audience with the ancient king. "Are you a member of the Xuanmen?" The old man in the black robe suddenly changed his expression, and the villagers stopped the sacrificial activities, turning to look at me with eyes filled with hatred. "Take him down." I wanted to explain, but they didn't give me the chance and rushed towards me. I was so scared that I turned and ran, but in my panic I couldn't find the way out of the village. Soon Villagers in distress appeared before me, and I began to retreat, but when I reached the corner there was nowhere left to go. "Come in quickly." A crack opened in the wooden door beside me, and a voice came through. I squeezed inside, greeted by a woman around my age with big, lovely eyes. Only after the footsteps outside faded away did I turn to the lovely girl in front of me and say, "Thank you for saving me. Come with me." She stuck her head out the door, confirmed there was no one outside, and then pulled us out. She pulled me as we ran deep into the village towards the mountain sword, and we were soon spotted and chased by the searching villagers. Until we were caught up and surrounded by them, the girl pulled me behind her and spoke a few words in Miao to the fierce villagers, who surprisingly retreated back into the village. I asked her what she had just said to those villagers, and she smiled, saying, "I told them you are my man." This answer leaves me speechless. Let's go quickly. She pulled me to keep walking. I glanced towards the village outskirts, where my friend was still outside. "Don't worry, as long as they don't enter the village, nothing will happen. The girl is easy to get along with. She told me her name is Xiao Yu, and I can call her Yuer." I walked through the mountains, where there was a canyon filled with the fragrance of Miao flowers, like a paradise on earth. On the way into the canyon, a dozen tombs caught my attention. The grave closest to me was clearly marked, "Tomb of the ancient King Tanlaning." The ancient king has died. Why did this happen? The scene before me is hard to believe. I even gave up searching for my grandfather's body just to find the ancient king and ask him to resolve Mr. Chen's incomplete soul issue. I never expected that the ancient king was already dead. "Zio Pingen, are you stupid? Hurry up and go." The moon urged me to move forward, and I pointed to the grave. "How did he die? Zio Pingen, what happened to you?" He looked at me with a puzzled expression. "This grave must be quite old. Who told you whose grave this is?" Seeing me so serious, Yue replied, "These are the predecessors who died fighting to protect Phoenix Valley 40 years ago. These mounds have existed since I can remember." I walked into those graves, and beside the ancient king, one tomb read, "The tomb of Wu Wan Shizhong." Did this sorcerer king also die in battle 40 years ago? I asked the moon. Yue said, "The witch king entered Phoenix Valley to resist that person. At the cost of their last breath, they unleashed the legendary forbidden technique. This is what allowed my Wu men to have this piece of pure land. Is that person a Chuanmain Xiangxi? Did he not enter Phoenix Valley back then?" Yue nodded and said, "Of course not." "How did the ancient king die?" Mother-in-law never mentioned the ancient king. She said that after that war 40 years ago, there were no more ancient kings in this world. I wondered, could her mother-in-law be the ancient king? "Are you in such a hurry to take me inside to meet your mother-in-law?" Yue smiled and said, "I want to tell her that I found someone." "Ren?" Looking at the innocent girl in front of me, I asked in confusion, "What does it have to do with me if you find a Chinese person?" She smiled and said, "Of course it matters, because you are one of my kind." I was speechless, but she was already pulling me deeper into the canyon. Along the way, I couldn't help but ask her why she was in such a hurry to take me to meet her mother-in-law. "Is it just to tell her that I am your person?" She nodded seriously and quickened her pace. "Don't joke around. You can't say that casually. We've only known each other for less than an hour. People will laugh at you for doing that." "I wasn't joking with you." She suddenly became serious. "Are you going or not? If you don't want to go, then leave now." I stopped in my tracks. If this isn't Phoenix Valley, then I really can't go in with her. To see the mother-in-law she spoke of, to save Mr. Chen. I can endure all of this. Looking at me obediently following her, she smiled proudly. "Is this right?" Don't worry. The girls from the Miao family value feelings the most. From now on, there will only be you in my heart. Of course, you are only allowed to have me as your woman." Her tone carried a hint of danger. "I don't have time to deal with her. I just want to see her mother-in-law as soon as possible." Finally, we have reached the deepest part of the canyon. Xiangxi is an ancient and quaint village. The houses are not many, but they are particularly exquisite. It's just that the colors have faded over time. "Is this Phoenix Valley?" I asked Yuer, and Yuer nodded. Along the way, I only saw a few elderly people. I'd have carefully observed everyone. They are just ordinary people, even if their souls are slightly different from others. They can only be considered ordinary people from the Mist Gate. It can't be Bu Wan. "Young man, what is your name?" An old woman suddenly grabbed me. It startled me. I shouted, "Don't tell her." With just a glance from Yuer, the old woman was so frightened that she let go. "Hold my hand." Then she grabbed me and quickly left. What I didn't know was that after I left, the old man suddenly shed tears as he watched my disappearing figure. "Lily, my daughter, your child has finally returned, finally returned." She is not Juzayala's child. 18 years ago, Juzayali was already dead while pregnant. So you might as well give up on that hope. A cold voice came from a distance. It is a short figure wearing a straw hat. "Senior, she is Lily's child. I can sense it from my bloodline." She actually called the short figure Senior Straw Hat. Nonsense. She is a disciple of the Ghost Path. They are from the Xuanmen sect, our enemies. She cannot learn our sorcery. Otherwise, it will bring disaster to the Witch Gate. Do you understand? I understand. The moon brought me to her home. It is a 2-story wooden cabin. My mother-in-law hasn't returned yet, so let me take you to my room first. After entering the house, Yuer pulled me upstairs. This really scared me. We just met. Is she in such a hurry to define our relationship? The events came suddenly. This is a bit too open-minded. Is the moon a bit hasty? We just met and you're asking to do that. What are you thinking about? She looked at my flushed face. Miao shot me a glare. So why are we in such a hurry to go to your room? We have a rule here. Only the girl's beloved can enter her boudoir. As long as I bring you into my boudoir, even if mother-in-law comes back later, I have to accept that I don't like you. It's not good to act first and report later, is it? I hurriedly came down the stairs. I know mine own worth. I'm neither handsome nor tall. It even gives a sickly feeling. She clung to me relentlessly. It's obvious that you have an ulterior motive for wanting to be my woman. She pulled me close, threatened. "Xiao Ping'en, do you want to go back on your word? If you have second thoughts, I won't care about you anymore. At that time, you can't leave Phoenix Valley alive." I was just about to speak. The door creaked open. Then a figure walked in. When the shadow entering the room became clear, I was immediately shocked. She turned out to be the one I encountered on my way to Xiangxi, the mysterious straw hat man who saved me and refused to reveal his name. "Senior," the straw hat man ignored me. When she entered the room, give me a chill. I couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Could she also be dead? But her breath was cold and eerie. But there was no trace of hostility. She had a strange herbal scent about her. She should be a living person. She is a powerful member of the witch sect. Mother-in-law, this is Xiao Ping'en. She is the one for me. Shut up. The straw hat man is angry. She suddenly turned to face me. Get out. I stood frozen in place. I don't know what to do. Senior, I intended to reveal the purpose of my journey, but suddenly there was a sharp pain in the chest. Under the pain, I covered my chest and bent down. What is going on? I looked at the moon. Answer me. Yuer's lips moved slightly. She was reciting an incantation I couldn't understand. Uh, the pain in my chest suddenly intensified and began to spread. I curled up on the ground, struggling. You actually placed the phoenix light drum on her. The straw hat person's voice was filled with shock. Yuer stopped reciting the incantation. That pain also faded away. She said to the straw hat man, "Mother-in-law, you said, as long as I find someone, I can go outside. Now I've found it," and gave her a gentle drumbeat. "Don't worry. She will never betray me in this lifetime." Nonsense. The straw hat man is angry. But she directed her anger at me. She kicked me out the door. I got up and walked toward the door. The straw hat person suddenly turned to me. As her gaze swept over, a sharp pain shot through my chest again. I stopped in my tracks. I heard the straw hat man close the door. The pain has disappeared. I've been cursed. Xiao Pingan, never leave Phoenix Valley. Otherwise you will die. Yuer's voice came through, but soon she was locked in the inner room by the straw hat man. I knelt at their doorstep. "Mother-in-law, you are the King right. You must save Mr. Chen. You should go." "I can't possibly save him." A cold response came from inside. Then the window closed as well. Until the sky gradually darkened, I started to worry about Mr. Chen. As we approached the exit of Phoenix Valley, I stopped in my tracks. I recalled what Yuer said earlier. She told me to never leave Phoenix Valley. Otherwise I will die. Little friend, you tell me, is your surname Lai? The old lady who pulled me aside earlier and asked if my last name was Lai. Again it appeared behind me. I was quite scared. "My surname is Lai." "Elderly man, what do you want to do?" "It is indeed you." Her face suddenly turned fierce and walked towards me step by step. I was scared and stepped back. She pointed behind me and said, "Don't move. There's a ghost behind you." Then she suddenly threw something at me. I darted away, although avoided going. But the water in that bowl. But it still fell on me. After that person spilled it on me. Immediately, white smoke began to rise, hissing. The bowl that fell to the ground, it was also broken. The old lady rushed over. I stepped aside. But more than that, it's curiosity. Why is the old lady's? That bowl will emit white smoke after being spilled on me. Could it be that there was truly an evil spirit behind me just now? But why can't I feel it? She picked up the broken pieces of the bowl from the ground, cursing and grumbling, "You evil spirit, I won't let you go unheard." She said. He just put the fragment into his mouth, and the sound of crunching could be heard. She has finished eating, picked up a piece of broken pottery again, continued chewing, and looked back, gave me a strange smile. Is this still a human? Her strange behavior caught me off guard. Frightened, they wanted to run towards the outside of Phoenix Valley. But just as I took a step forward, I stubbornly took it back. There is no other reason. I fear death. I don't dare to leave Fengyuan Valley, although I don't know. What kind of dangers will you encounter when you leave Phoenix Valley? But you shouldn't lie to me. You should hurry up and go out. Hurry up and go out. The old woman suddenly yelled at me furiously and charged towards me. Unexpectedly, she dashed out a few steps later. It just stopped. She turned to look behind her with a look of terror. Therefore, Senior, It's not like that. At her age. Who are you calling senior? Just as I was filled with doubt, a figure appeared in the distance. It's the straw hat person. Puff! She spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. The old woman suddenly knelt down on the ground. Senior, even if I beg you, the voice of the straw hat person came through. You go back. She was scared. With your abilities. It can't be untied any more. Everything that follows is already under my arrangement. You don't need to worry about anything. Otherwise, not only will you die, the straw hat man's voice suddenly became muffled. Even the sound of the wind around suddenly stopped. Not right. They are still talking. I can't hear it. In the distance, Ewer also ran over. But I was just about to speak. A whirlwind of chaos. I fell down. Consciousness gradually fades. Xiao Pingan, wake up. Wake up quickly. Ewer woke me up. The day has already dawned. I was still lying at her doorstep. What's going on? Is it possible that last night my soul wandered away? After I woke up, Ewer couldn't wait to tell me. Xiao Pingan, mother-in-law, agreed. We are together now. Regarding this ending, it really surprised me. I quickly got up towards the inside of the house and enter, but once inside, but did not see the straw hat person's figure. Where is the grandmother? I turned back to ask Ewer. Mother-in-law has gone out. Xiao Pingan, I only found out about it last night. Where did she go? I want to find her. I anxiously asked Ewer. Mother-in-law cannot leave Fenghuang Valley. She said she doesn't want to see you. And let me tell you, the person you brought is already dead. I collapsed onto the ground. Everything is ultimately too late. No way. I want to go out and take a look. I can't just listen to her one-sided words. I must go out and take a look. Did Mr. Chen really die? If not dead, I will take her immediately, entering Phoenix Valley to seek help from the straw hat man to save her. I quickly got up and ran outside. Ewer followed behind. Xiao Pingan, wait for me. Little friend, are you in such a hurry to go out? In front, the old woman who appeared last night. It has appeared again. She blocked my way. You get out of my way. I shouted at her. I'll take you out. She led the way in front of me. At this moment, Ewer has already followed. Follow her. She meant no harm. The old woman led us, stepped out of Phoenix Valley, and urged us to leave. At the moment I turned back, it feels like I can see it. Tears welled in the corners of her eyes. When I looked back, she waved at us. Hurry up. Once you leave, don't come back. Ewer pulled me along in one breath, ran straight into the Miao village outside. Our passage. The villagers of the village all looked towards us, but Ewer stared at me and said, Don't look back. Keep walking forward. Hurry. I dare not be careless. Following Ewer, we ran out of the village in one breath. I saw Mr. Chen still waiting for me outside the village, but there was no sign of Widow Zhang. Mr. Chen held up the Heavenly Master to guide the way. Her gaze was fixed intently on the hillside below. Mr. Chen, I called out to him, I'm glad you're back. The task that Lai Laosin assigned to me, consider it done. He looked at me and sighed with relief. Then he lowered his hand that had been raised to guide the way, and lowered their head. Mr. Chen has died. Mr. Chen, I tentatively tried to wake him up. But all of this is unnecessary. Let's go. We send him back. Ewer comforted me beside. Fallen leaves return to their roots. I should take Mr. Chen back home. Following his wishes, He was buried next to my grandfather after the cremation. I carried Mr. Chen down the slope. In the distance, an old ox cart slowly approached. It was the kind old man who brought us here yesterday. There is a familiar figure on the ox cart. Wai Kun has arrived. Previously, I did my utmost to block the eagle fiend. He actually didn't die. This surprised me a bit. As I got closer, I saw the waves of dark energy on Wai Kun's forehead. The hard candy has turned black. Omen of death. He still wants to rush over to see us. Senior Y, don't worry. I can still live for a while. Bring up Chen Liadi. I will take you back. I placed Mr. Chen onto the carriage. Wai Kun dressed him in beast clothes and beast shoes, and covered the body with a white cloth. It seems Wai Kun was already well prepared. Senior Y, now, what's going on? I pointed at the villager who was herding the old yellow cow and asked. It was arranged by me. Wai Kun told us everything. 40 years ago, Wai Kun struggled to survive, so I chose the same as Mr. Chen. The soul and spirit were placed in the hands of that person in the north. That's why I obey others. Since Mr. Chen cast the Waishan divine spell, after both sides suffered heavy losses, the final moments of life, everything has become clear. Perhaps people should not live only for themselves. We should do more for this old friend in the last moments of life. So, after returning to Xiangxi, Wai Kun then began to secretly arrange everything. No matter what he has done before, at this moment, he is worthy of respect. For the sake of a friend, he chose to stand against the so-called celestial master from the north. The ox cart moved steadily forward. The rugged mountain path was not easy to traverse. When going uphill, we still need to come down and push the ox cart together. Along the way, Wai Kun would occasionally apply a black ointment to Mr. Chen's corpse. The strange smell of the potion wafted through the air. It startled me. Because of this scent, I have smelled it before. When in Phoenix Valley, the straw hat man also has the scent of this herb on him. I asked Senior Y, what medicine did you apply to Mr. Chen? Herbal solution to prevent dampness and decay. It takes at least 2 days to return to Ligia village from here. There's no guarantee that Lai Gang won't come out to cause trouble. The weather is hot now. The body decomposes quickly. If we don't take some precautions, at that time, that smell, I'm just afraid you won't be able to accept it. Mr. Chen's words. It left me deep in thought. Why did the king rub embalming herbs on himself? Could it be that he has already died? When this idea appeared in my mind, I couldn't help but glance at Ewer beside me. She seemed very happy, standing on the ox cart, gazing out. Leaving Phoenix Valley, like a bird released from its cage, I shouldn't have told her my guess. Otherwise she might get hurt badly. Kingen, she is a good girl. Wai Kun suddenly said to me, I am a person of the Xuanmen sect. Can a person from the Xuanmen sect not marry and have children? The ancestor of your Xuanmen, Xiangxi, still not married and having children yet. It's just that you haven't broken that legendary confinement. What imprisonment? Wai Kun's words. The amount of information is large. I stare at him, waiting for him to explain. 40 years ago, before the celestial master went north, he once said, an invisible barrier blocked everything. For thousands of years, we take it for granted when it is order. But what exactly is the confinement? I don't know either. Wai Kun spoke in a very mysterious way. I can't understand. Wai Kun asked me to tell him. What did I encounter in Phoenix Valley? I will tell him. Of course, I can't say that the straw hat man smells of preserving herbs. Wai Kun listened and then, furrowing his brows. "You weren't wandering last night, were you? It seems that the Grain King doesn't want you to know about their conversation. The old lady you encountered should be a shaman. She should be preparing the grains for you. It just wasn't resolved. Your girlfriend's skills, it seems not simple." Waikun said at this point. I couldn't help but look at Ewer, who was still gazing at the scenery in the distance. "King and you are not meant to live past 18. Destined not to leave Xiangxi. This Phoenix-kin valley. Actually, it can be considered as giving you longevity." What? I immediately stood up, staring at Waikun in disbelief. "He has never been to Fenghuang Valley. How could you possibly know so much?" Looking at me with a questioning gaze, Waikun pointed at Ewer and said, "You can ask him to find out. Not just Mr. Chen. Grandma once said that it would be hard for me to get through 18. This may be a calamity brought on by childbirth." I looked at Ewer. "You gave me this longevity." Ewer nodded. "Why do you want to save me?" Ewer smiled and said, "You are my man. Of course, I can't let you die. Otherwise, who would take me out?" Ewer, "Thank you." Looking at Ewer in front of me. At this moment, I don't know what words to use to thank her. Just don't forget gratitude. Of course, you wouldn't dare either. I've said it before. It is rumored that women from Miao will cast spells on the ones they love to ensure their loyalty to herself. It seems the legend is true. But it wasn't that scary after all. This Kingu, can it still save a life? Waikun continued, "Not all Gu Miao people can use Gu. In all of Xiangxi, there is only one Gu King, and the Gu King cannot release the Phoenix Gu. Now it's fine. This girl can replace her, although it's still not quite ready. What is needed is just of time." Old man Wai said at this point, suddenly changed expression. It was as if something had come to mind. "Chop, Ewing has actually found a successor. Senior Y, what do you want to say?" "No, it's nothing. Waikun is clearly hiding something. But I thought of. At that time, Gu Wang saved me and Mr. Chen. I'd asked, has the Gu King not released the Phoenix Gu for 40 years? I suddenly understood. Why did the Gu King refuse to stay alive after saving us? He broke the rules. He not only released the Phoenix Gu, also came from Xiangxi." Waikun confidently replied, "No, because the Gu King did not dare to come out. I am shocked. The Gu King broke the rules. Do you know that person from the north? If I had known, I dare not think further. Of course, I also dare not tell Waikun. Even Ewer." The ox cart bumped its way to a village. The old man who drives the carriage invited us to his home for dinner. Waikun did not refuse. After having dinner, it is already noon. The old man with the cart took us another 10 kilometers. We said goodbye, because the path ahead is narrow. The ox cart cannot pass. Waikun did not hurry on his journey. There is no corpse driving either. He made me carry Mr. Chen's body. I found a place to stop the corpse transport. I asked him, since Lai Gang could show up to cause trouble at any moment, then why not hurry to send Mr. Chen back? He told me there are rules to the practice of corpse guiding. The corpse can only be driven at night. The rules have been broken. Many things are hard to say. Just like that, we rested in the dark, narrow corpse transportation station. Perhaps it was due to the fatigue from the past few days. With the addition of no mosquito bites during the day, I fell asleep. Until Waikun woke me up, I just realized it was already dark. Mr. Chen's body has already stood up, and on the front door there was a royal seal attached. Let's grab something to eat before we go. Wai Kun took out some dry cakes from the bundle. We began to eat by the stream where the mountain sword struck the water. After finishing the meal, Wai Kun shook the copper bell. Mr. Chen's body moved as well. To be honest, if it weren't for Wai Kun, I really don't know how much effort it will take. Only then can Mr. Chen's body be sent back to his hometown. After all, this journey has been a rugged and narrow mountain road. In some places, the roadside is still a sheer cliff. Mr. Chen's body, though not heavy, but it is extremely difficult to rely solely on human strength to carry out of Xiangxi. I opened the door. Wai Kun shook the bronze bell, but this time an accident occurred. When Mr. Chen's body reached the door, suddenly stopped, standing still, refusing to go out. What's going on? I looked down at his feet. The door that dares to descend has no threshold. Why doesn't Mr. Chen leave? I looked at Wai Kun with confusion. Wai Kun's expression gradually changed. He trembled as he pointed to the door outside. Lai Liason has arrived. I looked out towards the door. Recently, Mr. Chen's body has started to decay. Mr. Chen's body continued to tremble in the corner. The body trembles. This is clearly fear. I asked busily, "Senior Wai, what is going on?" After all, he dares to descend. No one can match the means of controlling corpses. Wai Kun sighed helplessly. "Ping An, I can't control Lai Liason's body. Why? He wants to cultivate Lai Lao San's corpse into a corpse king. This is why Chen Liati's body instinctively fears seeing him. Perhaps someone is heading south." I asked, "Someone is heading south. Is that person's subordinate?" Wai Kun nodded. "Grandpa has already gone in." In the darkness, I could see the long fangs protruding from the corners of his mouth, and nails as dark as a knife's edge. "Wait a moment, I'll block him. You all send Chen Liati back." Wai Kun finished speaking and rushed out the door. I grabbed him firmly. "Let me do it." Wai Kun hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "That works too. Be careful. I have a magnetic sword in hand. All evils are hard to cleanse. Even if it can't be stopped, there won't be any danger to life." Wai Kun naturally understood this principle. That's why they were willing to let me stay and block Grandpa after the painting disaster. No way. I decisively refused. "You and Senior Wai go ahead. I will catch up with you later." I finished speaking and rushed out of the room. Heaven and earth, the mysterious religion, root of all Kai, four-spirit sky lantern, the Ujiu Liuting, help me eliminate the essence. Yao Mo Wan form, actively as commanded. The crimson brand appeared in an instant on the hand. Grandpa stopped in his tracks. "Grandpa, I'm sorry." I charged at him with the magnetic sword raised. The crimson light forced him to start retreating. I can't catch up to him at all. But as long as I stop moving, he also stopped. In the distance, Wai Kayambe has already taken Mr. Chen's body away. I chased after them. Grandpa followed behind me after Warsaw. As long as I stopped moving, he just stopped. Always kept a distance of about 10 meters from me. His goal is to stop us from taking Mr. Chen back. This troubles me a lot. To know Mr. Chen's body, Grandpa trembles all over when he sees Warsaw. Not controlled by Wai Kun. I must stop him. What a ghostly disciple. A familiar voice came from afar. "Lai Gang has arrived." As his figure appeared in the distance, I realized that only he had come. Xiangxi did not come with him. "Lai Gan, it's you again." I stared at him fiercely. Regarding this Lai Gang, I wish I could slice it into 1,000 pieces. I suddenly charged at him. "The eagle slaughterer is gone. I just shattered his soul." "Slow down." Lai Gan panicked. "It has begun to retreat." In the distance, Grandpa suddenly leaped up after Warsaw, jumped in front of Lai Gang, blocked me, and let out a sound like the deep growl of a beast. Lai Gang smugly said behind his grandfather, "It is obvious that Lai Gang can give orders to his grandfather, and it will make Grandpa in Warsaw no longer fear this sword. I can't scatter Grandpa's vengeful spirit." I took out the Celestial Master's talisman. I pressed it towards Grandpa's face. The Xiangxi talismans can suppress all evil spirits. There's no problem in subduing a zombie. Indeed, as the talisman touched Grandpa, Grandpa let out a beast-like howl again. Dark smoke began to rise from his body. I couldn't bear it. Retrieve the talisman. In the moment of retraction, Grandpa kept stepping back. He looked at the talisman in my hand with a face full of fear, no longer under Lai Gang's control. I rushed towards Lai Gang again. Lai Gang was anxious. He turned and ran towards the distance. I didn't give up this opportunity. Chasing all the way, our distance is gradually closing in, until he rushed into a forest. I did not hesitate. The journey has been rushed during this time. My night vision has improved again. The darkness in the forest has little effect on me. Rushed into the forest, I gradually realized that Lai Gang was drifting further away from me, and quickly disappeared ahead. It is obvious that he was intentionally slowing down before. His purpose is to lead me into this forest. Meanwhile, a chill swept over. I broke out in a cold sweat. The air in the forest is particularly chilly. I just realized it has come to an end. Without any hesitation, turning around, I returned the same way. But it wasn't until I had run for 5 minutes straight that I couldn't help but stop in my tracks again. There is no way to see the exit of the forest ahead. The road out has clearly become longer. When I started to take action, when I returned to the original spot where I made the mark, I can already confirm that this is a ghost wall. I cautiously looked around. A chilling aura permeated the air. Lai Gang did not appear, but I know he won't leave. He definitely wants to exhaust my mental energy in this way. Until I can no longer control the porcelain sword, he would take advantage of the opportunity to enter. I decisively sheathed the porcelain sword and slowed down his pace. There are many ways to break through the ghost wall. For example, urinate towards the north. Keep walking forward. You can go out now. At this moment, I can't distinguish the exact direction, but I still have the boy's urine. Let's give it a try. I turned around in a circle after peeing. It's like there's everything from the east to the west. I continued to walk forward, but soon felt disappointed. I have returned to the starting point again. Before rushing into this forest, I vaguely remember that this forest isn't very large. The principle of ghost walls. It makes the driver think they are on a straight path, but in reality, it is constantly circling within a designated area. So, I only need to take a few steps after each distance. Make a 90-degree right turn. In principle, it is possible to walk out of this forest. I silently counted my steps. Every 50 steps, I turn at a right angle. But after making 7 or 8 turns using this method, not only did not walk out, once again we have returned to the starting point, this ghostly wall. Very unusual. But then again, since Lai Gang has brought me into this, how could they let me leave so easily? Right now, I can only use the simplest method. Then just sit and wait. When the dawn breaks, the sunlight may disperse the malevolent energy in the forest. The ghost wall collapses on its own. At this moment, I can only pray, "We hope Waikun and you stay safe." I hope they can safely send Mr. Chin back home. Time quickly moved into the late night. The fog has risen in the forest. The fog obscured my vision. My visibility is less than 3 meters. Step, step, step. A voice came from afar. It is the sound of footsteps made when the corpse demon jumps. Until a vague figure appeared in front of me. I see clearly now. That is my grandfather's body. He let out a beast-like roar at me. It seems like a provocation. Then he turned and walked away into the distance. Is Grandpa going to take me out? When this idea arose, I decisively denied it. Grandpa would never take me out, because at this moment he has already turned into a zombie. He is clearly under Lai Gang's control, but I still followed. I want to see what he is really like. In the mist, visibility is still decreasing, until I felt a dizzying sensation. I realized I've been fooled again. If Grandpa were spinning around with me, when I thought of this, a wave of dizziness swept over. I can no longer stand steady. The whole person fell down. At this moment, I only feel as if the world is constantly spinning. I feel extremely dizzy, with my last consciousness, holding on to prevent fainting. And that day, Master Lu was taken out. If Lai Gang gets closer, it's also good for self-defense. Little Master, I am so scared. Don't abandon me. Don't abandon me. I heard Widow Zhang's voice. Looking into the mist, I saw it. She looked at me in pain. The pure white skin appeared before me. That is a temptation I cannot resist. But at this moment, there were quite a few more bruises on top. In her eyes, with a helpless plea, in a daze, I seemed to see Lai Gang, her crazed tenderness. I felt an inexplicable heartache. I struggled to rise. Suddenly, Widow Zhang disappeared before my eyes. I broke out in a cold sweat. Just now, why did my heart ache? I met her by chance. Considering the age difference, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I don't know how much time has passed. A figure appeared before me. It is Lai Gan. I struggled to get up and recited the incantation. Perhaps it was due to the thick fog. I am already damp, and my muscles and bones ache. The spell is broken. The words did not appear. Along with it came a wave of exhaustion. My legs trembled. In the thick fog, the ominous energy is heavy, has eroded almost all of my mental strength. I can no longer cast spells. Stop struggling. You have been in a coma for 3 days. Lai Gang's words shocked me greatly. It has only been a little while. How could it possibly be 3 days? He is definitely lying to me. But why did he lie to me? In the distance, Lai Gang spoke again. You know me. Why can I communicate with you like a living person, even if one is not a member of the Xuanmen? It's hard to tell that I am already a dead person. His words successfully piqued my interest. He continued, this is a type of technique from the ancient shamanic practices in Shu. It's called the art of the living dead, primitive witchcraft, the art of the living dead. It is said that, in ancient Shu, the primitive witchcraft was rampant and harmed the people. Zhang Dailin serves the supreme old lord. After the commander's disciples subdued the necromancer, establishing the mystical gate, become the grand master of the Xuanmen, Lai Gang's resurrection, unexpectedly, since it is related to the original shamanism. Seeing my shocked expression, Lai Gang wore a proud expression. I said so much. I just want to tell you. The celestial master wants to do something. It is beyond your imagination. You'd better obediently take the porcelain sword and head north with me. Otherwise, your ending will be very tragic. You can give up on that hope. What Grandpa insisted on even in death, I will definitely protect him until the end. No matter how powerful the other party is, I can never yield. I tried to chant the spell again. Illusory porcelain sword. Lai Gang is playing in the underground tunnel again. As a disciple of the ghostly path, do you know the origin of the porcelain sword? His words left me stunned. The origin of the porcelain sword. Yuo Zuzi didn't tell me at first. I know nothing. Lai Gang's expression of confusion towards me seems very pleased. Back then, after the Wu Yao Shu was slain, the Grand Master Zhu split the evil sword of porcelain into two. The porcelain sword has given you a path in the ghostly way. Xiangxi stayed at Longhu Mountain. Pui Dao Menran, seeing the porcelain sword is like seeing the master of the ghost path. There is another rule. Yuexuzi may not have told you. The mighty swordsman emerges. No one dares to disobey the sword master. The hero with the mighty sword emerges. No one dared to disobey the porcelain sword wielder. Yuo Zuzi indeed never told me this rule. But since he didn't tell me, then I don't have to follow it at all. Xiangxi saw what was in my heart. The playful smirk deepens. Do you know, why did your grandfather intentionally lose to Yuo Zuzi back then? And lose the porcelain sword? I asked it. Why? Back then, Lai Leasen not only gave up the porcelain sword and chose to leave the school, get married and have children, having lost the pure Yan body. This also means that he will never be able to hold the porcelain sword again. Yet he did all of this. It is to avoid being controlled by the celestial master. But did he manage to do it? Now he has not yet become a puppet of the heavenly master, Yuo Zuzi, after obtaining the porcelain sword, but it did not revitalize the tracks. And shortly after hiding in the sealed village, chose to commit suicide. To explore the reasons, it is also to avoid being controlled by the celestial master. I've said so much. I just want to tell you, don't think that having a porcelain sword can compete with the celestial master. Having a porcelain sword, you will be under the control of the heroic sword. You are just a pawn of the celestial master. Even my death, it is just a part of the celestial master's plan. Of course, I have no complaints. I believe the celestial master does this. There is a reason for him. Lai Gang is only in his 40s, but he knows a lot. But there is no doubt that this is related to his loyalty to the celestial master. But if what he said is true, I can't imagine. Xiao Ping'an, where are you? At that moment, from afar, Yuer's voice echoed. Lai Gang's expression slightly changed. Whispered, below, let's do it. This sword represents the Xuanmen. This girl from Miao Jiang. You can use, but you must always remember, she is your enemy. Lai Gang finished speaking. Keep a vigilant eye on what's behind me. Because of Yuer's figure, it has already appeared not far away. With her was Waikun. Yuer, I'm here. I responded to Yuer. Yuer ran towards me. Waikun, you wait for me. The celestial master will not let you go. Lai Gang left a harsh remark and then departed. Disappeared into the mist. Yuer grabbed my arm tightly. Finally found you. As if afraid that I might suddenly disappear, the fog gradually began to lift. I spoke to Yuer. Let's go. Let's go out first. After running out of the forest in one breath, now I can finally relax. As the mist began to clear, the ghost has passed through the wall. At this moment, the sun has risen in the east. Why are you in such a hurry? Yuer saw me so anxious, charging out of the forest, very puzzled. Before Yuer could respond, I hurriedly asked, Yuer, how did you come back? Where is Mr. Chen's body? Peinan, you tell us first. These 3 days, are you all in this forest? Waikan's words startled me. It turns out Lai Gang didn't lie to me. I have really been unconscious for 3 days. But why 3 days? He didn't lay a hand on me either. Lai Gang's purpose for trapping me in this. Was it just to take away Mr. Chen's body? Upon thinking of this, I hurriedly asked, "Quickly tell me, Mr. Chen's body. What happened?" Seeing me so anxious, Waikan said, "It has already been returned, and according to your wishes, they cremated him." I let out a sigh of relief, but at the same time confusion grew even stronger. Lai Gang did this. What am I really doing this for? Seeing my puzzled expression, Waikan asked again, "Peinan, have you been caught in a ghost wall these past 3 days? Trapped inside by Lai Gang?" I nodded, and the events during this period. Said to Waikan. Waikan listened, fell into deep thought. Even if I hold the Xiangxi talisman in my hand, in these 3 days, after all, I have already fallen into a coma. He could easily find a living person, come seize my magnetic sword, and control me, but he just happened to appear when I woke up. What is the reason for this? This might be what he means. It seems they don't plan to take your magnetic sword anymore. He needs a magnetic sword. I need you for this. Those who can wield the magnetic sword. Waikan gazed towards the north. Fear was evident in his gaze. Even if one is on the verge of death, he feared that so-called celestial master from the north. It hasn't decreased either. Perhaps, under the heavens, only you lie Pingen. Only then can the magnetic sword be wielded. After all, you are the disciple of the ghost path. He keeps you. There must be a purpose for him. If I'm not mistaken, he will probably find a way to send you to the north. I looked toward the north. This presence that has been remotely controlling everything in the south, is it really that powerful? Then let's cut off his southern sight chain. This sentence was spoken by Yuer. This surprised me a bit, but it is not considered a good idea. Waikan also nodded and said, "This is indeed feasible. Next, I will use my last moments. I will do my best to help you get rid of Lai Gang and Xiangxi. First, let him completely lose control over the south. 3 days of unconsciousness. I feel extremely sore all over. My head feels heavy and dizzy." Waikan said, "This is caused by my mental energy being completely drained. In 3 days of unconsciousness, I must continuously resist his sinister energy from eroding my soul. Lai Gang did this. It's also possible they want to capture me and take me north." Of course, Waikan was just speculating. What scheme is the celestial master laying out? No one knows. Next, we went to Waikan's house. As they passed by Widow Zhang's village, I couldn't help but stop in my tracks. "Hurry up." Mr. Chen urged me to hurry up, and led us to bypass it directly. He didn't want to enter the village. I asked him about the situation inside. Of course, I mainly want to know about Widow Zhang's situation, but it's hard to say directly. Waikan shook his head and said, "Difficult to handle. The people inside have all turned into living corpses. As night falls, this is hell on earth. But perhaps the evil spirits have been eliminated. The problems here will be easily resolved. After all, the grievances of the living are controlled by the yin sha. Living devil, living dead." I was shocked. Aren't both forms of sorcery the same? The former is the living transformation of death. The latter is simply about killing the living. For my analysis, Waikan also fell into deep thought. In the end, I had no choice but to nod. This is indeed possible. Next, we will rest at Waikun's home. His nephew's son is quite filial to Waikun. We have been warmly welcomed at his home these past few days. This makes me a bit embarrassed. 2 days later, I have almost regained all my mental strength, looking at me being able to wield the words again. Waikun immediately decided, "We will act immediately. Go find Lai Gang." Senior Y, do you know where Lai Gang is? I don't know. Waikun shook his head. That's why I'm urging you to take action now. If someone from the north comes down again, what we are facing is not just Lai Gang and Yin Sha. I must do it in the last moments. Do more for you. Waikun's words. It moved me deeply. At this moment, you were suddenly said to me and Waikun, "You can rest assured. Lai Gang is not far from us yet. I can accurately lead you to their hiding place." I questioned, "Ewer, how did you know his location?" Ewer smiled mysteriously. He softly chanted a spell under his breath. After the spell lasted for nearly a minute, a small black bug flew into the room. Ewer spread out her palm. The insect flew into the palm of his hand. Ewer raised her palm to her forehead again, then closed his eyes, as if caught in meditation. I looked at Waikun. Waikun also looked shocked. Speaking of, this is communicating with the goo insect. Lai Gang has been cursed. I didn't expect that. He can already manipulate the parasitic insects inside the living dead. It seems that Tian Xiaoyu. Indeed, I have received the true teachings of the Goo King. But from Waikun's shocked expression, but seemed to sense a hint of hidden worry. What is he worried about? Waikun is definitely hiding a lot of things. He just won't tell me. At this moment, the bud in Ewer's hand flew up again. However, the insect suddenly flew up and then fell to the ground. Then there was no more sound. The goo worm is dead. This. I looked at Ewer with concern. Ewer opened her eyes. But regarding the sudden death of the goo worms, he didn't care at all. Waikun explained that it is said that when the goo worm leaves the human body, the time of survival is very short, unless it evolves wings, become the king worm, the wancheng to be precise. It's no longer a goo worm. It can be used for a long-distance communication. But the wancheng is the final form of the goo chong. It is also the end of life. So, it will drain the last bit of life. Dying after completing one's final mission. You are nodded in response to Waikun's guess. Waikun sighed. Though both are witchcraft, the witchcraft and sorcery of Miao. Indeed, it is far more than the Xiangxi corpse transporting technique. Profound beyond measure. I suddenly remembered, I too have fallen under Ewer's spell. Ewer released the poison. I never noticed it. Where will Ewer hide the goo worms? What method is being used again? Let me be cursed. Could it be that the cursed insects are hidden inside her body? Just like microorganisms, when applying the poison, it is about issuing commands to the worms inside the body through thought. Then, through the mouth and nose, silently entered my body. Ewer said, Lai Gang is in the direction of Longshan. It's nearly 20 kilometers from here. Waikun urged, Since Ewer, can you find Lai Gang's location? Then let's act immediately. It's best to get rid of him before dark. Senior Y, can you still walk? 20 kilometers. It's not a short distance. Waikun was already half buried in the ground. I'm worried he has gone far away. Accidents will happen. No problem. We can take an ox cart for a while. This will be faster. Waikun asked his grandnephew. We were taken there by an ox cart. After 2 hours of traveling on the ox cart, it is already noon. The narrow mountain road ahead. no longer suitable for ox carts to pass through. At this moment we are close to our destination, Dakai. There are still about 10 kilometers to go. After getting off the ox cart, we continue to move forward. Waikun is indeed very old. He leaned on his cane. At this steep slope, we still need to help each other. Travel slowly. We didn't realize until the sun was about to set. They have just arrived at a canyon location. You are pointed towards the path in the canyon. Lai Gang should be hiding inside. Let's hurry inside. Waikun gasped and grabbed me. King En, take a break. No rush. We sat down to rest. As Waikun regained his strength, during this time we also ate some dry rations. After all, the upcoming confrontation is very dangerous. Only when you're full do you have strength. After entering the canyon, soon another cursed insect flew over. Ewer caught the insect, similarly placing a hand on the forehead. He opened his eyes only after the parasitic insect died, pointing to the hillside in the distance. Right there, the direction that Ewer pointed to, in the midst of the dense forest, a temple could be faintly seen on the hillside. We proceed cautiously until we got close to the temple. The bursts of sinister energy inside made us alert. The temple is not large, old and dilapidated. It has even tilted to the point of being a dangerous building. It should have been many years ago. Look up at the sky. It is already dusk. It's almost dark. I reminded. Next, we need to hurry up. As night fell, the ominous aura of Xiangxi intensified. It will be harder to deal with. I finished speaking and began to chant the incantation, transform into a magnetic arrow, and quickened the pace, rushing towards the temple. As I kicked the door with a loud bang, the entire dilapidated gate was accompanied by bursts of dust, and fell down with a crash. I quickly glanced around the temple, did not see the figures of Lai Gang and Xiangxi, but in the dim light, yet there is a figure sitting cross-legged on the offering platform. That was a boy who was about the same height as the straw hat man. If you don't watch closely, I thought it was just a lifelike statue. As I kicked to open the door, he slowly opened his eyes. Coast Path sect member, you're here. An old and murky voice emerged from the boy's mouth. This is clearly not the voice of a child. He was possessed. At the same time, I also discovered the malevolent aura in the temple. It came from the boy in front of me. Why is it a boy? What is his relationship with Lai Gang? I pointed the magnetic arrow in my hand at him and questioned. Who are you? The boy did not answer me, and nodded at me with satisfaction. You did not disappoint me. I'm waiting for you in the north. Go to hell. I rushed over. Just as my magnetic arrow was about to be drawn across his neck, his figure suddenly became blurry, then disappeared without a trace. What is going on? I was even more shocked. Waikun walked over. There was a deep fear in their gaze. Who is he? I asked Waikun. Messenger of the Celestial Master. Lai Gang communicated through the Xiangxi. Are you saying that the person who just spoke to me is from the north? I don't want to call him Xiangxi, because he doesn't deserve it. But he is indeed not a celestial master. He is nothing more than a self-proclaimed grassroots master. His actions, dishonoring the mystical path, Waikun nodded, but immediately he looked around. I know what he's looking for. Lai Gang and the Eagle Demon. The temple is shrouded in ominous energy. During the day, if the eagle killer is hiding here, can be completely unaffected by sunlight. In the empty room, there is no shelter that can hide. Waikun is clearly going overboard. But Waikun said to me, and you quickly search carefully all around. That boy just now was not an illusion. Wai Kun's words. This brings us to the key point of the issue. The young boy just now was indeed not an illusion. It truly exists. Since they are real people, he couldn't possibly just disappear from our sight without a trace. This doesn't make sense. Yue said, just now, after my goo worm approached him, died inexplicably. This child is not simple. But I can be sure that I have been waiting at the door. He can't possibly go out. That is to say, he is still hiding inside. I looked around. There is no one in sight. That fierce aura was gradually dissipating. It can be said for sure. He has already left. Wai Kun also stopped searching. He felt it too. I walked up to the altar. He casually tapped on the surface of the Tongzi pan table. The sound of banging echoed. I was suddenly taken aback. The following is empty. Wai Kun also noticed. He rushed over. He slapped the table with his hand. The echoing sound proves. The following is empty. Wai Kun and I struck at the same time. Lift that tablecloth. Before me appeared a black hole, a hollow deep underground. Black holes are not that big. Only one person can enter. When the terrifying aura emerged, he is inside. I looked at Wai Kun. Wai Kun had a serious expression on his face. After a moment of silence, taking a deep breath, he said, "You stay here. I'm going down." I held on to him. "Forget it. I don't want Wai Kun to take risks." Of course, I also dare not take the risk. I understand the enemy's plan. Going down there could be a death sentence. I have at most 10 days left. I only hope at the end of my life. What can I do for you?" Wai Kun finished speaking. They must enter the black hole. This truly caught me by surprise. It seems he is not as weak as I imagined. I gave him the Celestial Master Talisman, and instructed, never force it. If unable to resist, hurry and pull out. Wai Kun nodded in agreement after I spoke. Without hesitation, entered the cave. Wai Kun entered the cave shortly after. You were suddenly changed her expression. Whispered to me, "Lai Gang has appeared nearby." He actually didn't hide in the cave. I looked out towards the door. A shadow flashed past the door. Someone has arrived. But then the whole house began to creak. Yue and I looked up. Dust fell in clouds from the beams. The once sturdy house was about to collapse in that moment. "Hurry up and go outside." Yue pulled me and wanted to run outside. I took a glance into the cave. Senior Y is still inside. What should I do? "Hurry up. The house has collapsed. You and I will both die." Yue and I rushed out of the temple, until after running out more than 10 meters, with a loud rumble, the house behind collapsed. Watching the billowing clouds of dust, I can't help but feel a bit lost inside. Zin Zhang Wai Kun Jai Pachu Bu Lila. I thought Wai Kun probably wouldn't make it out. Yue said, "Don't worry about her. She is not dead yet." "How do you know?" As soon as the words left my mouth, I found it to be unnecessary. Wai Kun is probably also affected by the poison. Yue must have sensed that Wai Kun was still alive through the goo worms. I couldn't help but glance again at the seemingly simple and lovely woman beside me. She is not as simple as she appears. She sensed my gaze. Yue said, "Don't think of me that badly. My mother-in-law once told me, Wai Kun is not someone to be trusted. Wai Kun cannot be trusted." This sentence reminded me, when I first met Wai Kun, Grandpa repeatedly told me in my dreams not to trust him. This Wai Kun, there are indeed many areas that are worth questioning. That old thing, it should be damned. The voice of Lai Gang came through. At this moment, He is staring at us from a distance, and on his shoulders, and that eagle killer, and the collapse of the house. It definitely has something to do with him. I didn't say much. With the porcelain sword in hand, he charged towards Lai Gang. Even if it shatters his soul and spirit, it cannot resolve the hatred in my heart. He, the eagle demon, let out a roar at me. His hatred for me is far greater than the hatred I have for Lai Gang, just because in his mind I deprived him of everything. As his call echoed, a few people appeared in the surrounding grass. It is a living ghost, led by Widow Zhang. Several living people surrounded us. Ewer was chanting a spell. I saw tiny black dots flying off him, almost invisible to the naked eye. He is playing the drums, but those dark dots did not touch the living spirit. Suddenly fell to the ground. Clearly, these cursed insects were killed by evil energy, until Ewer's face began to turn pale. It seems that controlling the goo insects also consumes a lot of mental energy. At this moment, I had to take action. A living corpse reached out towards Ewer with resentment. I struck him with my magnet sword without hesitation. As black smoke billowed from all round, there was a piercing wail of "Yia," but this did not stop him. He grabbed my magnetic sword. Let the heat disperse his malevolence, until the soul shatters and disperses. I withdrew the magnetic sword. The crimson above has faded quite a bit. If this continues, I'm afraid these living evildoers haven't been dealt with yet. I can no longer control the magnetic sword. The other living spirits are also rushing towards us. I blocked 3 living spirits with a single sword, but at the same time, they also held onto the magnetic sword in my hand tightly. As the black smoke billowed up, it was the same terrible scream as that of the eagle, but the other few people had already rushed towards Ewer. At this moment, I can't open my hand due to pain. All I could do was anxiously watch as Ewer was surrounded by them. But Ewer bit her tongue, spitting out a mouthful of essence. Spit directly at the few living people, except for Widow Zhang, who dodged for a while after seeing the spitting blood. The other 2 were also infected. 2 living people, stained with the blood from Ewer's tongue, fell down, struggled violently. The shape is terrifyingly and exaggeratedly distorted. Widow Zhang has already started to retreat. Her gaze towards me was very complex. I also saw the bruises on her skin. The 3 living souls desperately trying to seize my magnetic sword have lost their spirits. I am also doing this for self-preservation, with no other choice, and shattered their souls. I also noticed that the ominous presence had become even stronger than before. I retreated to Ewer's side. Ewer's face was terrifyingly pale at that moment. This is caused by excessive mental energy consumption. The 2 living corpses that Ewer had spat out a mouthful of vital blood at have stood up again. I pointed my magnetic sword at them. Ewer grabbed my hand. Then he coldly glanced at Lai Gang in the distance. It felt as if commanded by a gaze. 2 living beings suddenly charged at Lai Gang. Clearly, they were controlled by Ewer's poison insects. Quack! The sound of Bojan snapping echoed. Lai Gang acted without any hesitation. 2 living people were killed by Lai Gang. Looking at the faint glow of the magnetic sword in my hand, I decided to give it my all. Rushed over again. As long as we hit Lai Gang, even if he doesn't lose his soul, we'll also suffer heavy losses. Yin Sha issued the command again. Widow Zhang stood in front of me, reclaimed the raised magnetic sword. I hesitated. Lai Ping'an, take the magnetic sword and go north to meet the celestial master with me. Lai Gang spoke. In his eyes, I have reached the edge of inquiry. what he is waiting for. It was the last glow of my magnetic sword disappearing. When the time comes, I will also exhaust my last bit of mental strength. Without the blessings of the Xiangxi and the magnetic sword that day, I am just like an ordinary person. You wish. I replied to him coldly, but there is nothing that can be done. I started, then stepped back, because there is simply no way to deal with Lai Gang and Xiangxi. Retreating to Yuer's side, I grabbed him. Then he turned and ran away. We ran out of the canyon in one breath. At this moment, the sky was completely dark. The magnetic sword in my hand has also transformed into a circle. It is obvious that Lai Gang intentionally fell under a curse. Its purpose is to lead us here. Let's catch them all in one net. Soon, we had no choice but to stop. The road ahead is narrow. A person is standing straight there. That is my grandfather after the killing. Behind me, Lai Gang followed behind at a steady pace. We were intercepted from both front and back. It is obvious that Lai Gang intentionally fell into a trap. Its purpose is to lure us in. Grandpa Huasha is slowly approaching us. Yuer looked at me anxiously. I can no longer wield blood sorcery. What should I do? Her face was pale. This is caused by excessive mental strain. Yuer and I were ultimately still too young. Insufficient mental strength. Even with extraordinary skills, one cannot control everything. I stopped her. Run quickly. I pulled Yuer behind me. Prepare to block Grandpa. Let Yuer have the chance to escape. I charged at Grandpa with my bare hands. Seeing this, Yuer, they exclaimed immediately, Zio Pingen, don't. But I just can't stop. I rushed over. Just as Grandpa was about to pounce on me, the sound of a jingling brass bell echoed. It is the soul-controlling spirit. Is Waikan here? Grandpa suddenly stopped in his tracks. The body remained rooted in place, no longer listening to Lai Gang's orders. That is caused by the soul-controlling spirit. In the distance, a figure from the gully is approaching step by step. In his hands, there is a swaying copper bell. It really is Wai-kun. Wai-kun, aren't you dead yet? Lai Gang's expression changed. Wai-kun has already approached me and gave me the talisman record. Lai Gang suddenly withdrew. This surprised me. As he retreats, Grandpa from Warsaw also turned and disappeared into the night. Senior Y, what's going on? I looked at him in confusion. You should know. Both Yuer and I have exhausted our mental energy. At this moment, Lai Gang and Xiangxi made their move to deal with Wai-kun, whose body was half buried in the ground. No problem at all. But why did he choose to leave? And also, how did Wai-kun come out of that cave? Wai-kunda. In the past, Wu Wangshi Kai used forbidden techniques to block the celestial master. This saved Phoenix Valley. The Witch Gate manages to survive. What the world does not know is the reason the celestial master did not dare to venture deep into Phoenix Valley back then. What is feared is the Valley King's desperate struggle to the death. Be the last senior sister, and release the goo insects cultivated over a lifetime. Wai-kun said. I was shocked. At the same time, it filled me with confusion. Wai-kun looked at Yuer and continued. You tell me, is the Valley King going to share all his bone-refining techniques? Is everything handed over to you? Yuer said with a puzzled expression. Senior Y, I don't know what you're talking about. All right, you ultimately still won't believe me. After all, I betrayed the witch sect back then. Wai-kun's face flashed with a hint of disappointment. It is also filled with helplessness. He randomly took out something from his pocket. It was a copper chrysalis of a half-human, half-bird creature. I took the copper chrysalis of the half-human, half-bird figure. This is something from underground. Waikun nodded. Could that building be an ancient tomb? Waikun shook his head and said, "This is not an ancient tomb. It is a passage of escape. That bronze escaped from below. This thing, it was when I was chasing him, falling from him. I examined closely the bronze chrysalis of the half-human, half-bird hand. Beneath the blue patina, 400 million Buddha statues. What era is this from? Waikunda, Northern Song Dynasty. To be precise, it should be the same period as the Western Zaya. Why is he bringing this? I don't understand." Waikun looked toward the north again, explained with fear. "This person is a pupa. I saw it 40 years ago. This is your grandfather and Uozuzi. Dug out from over their back then, handed over to the Celestial Master." Waikun finished speaking. He took a deep drag of the freshly lit cigarette. Suddenly he started coughing violently, until the old face turned red from coughing, bent down, breathing heavily. "I am shocked at this moment. I can't believe it was 40 years ago again. 40 years ago, Grandpa and Uozuzi, what did they actually go through? Why do they want to help that person from the north? And also, the person from the north, why kill so many powerful members of the witch sect?" I looked at Waikun. "Are you saying that 40 years ago my grandfather and Uozuzi went to the grave? It is also an ancient tomb of the Western Zaya." Waikun's cough has eased quite a bit. With the support of the moon, he stood up. "Continue the story." "The Celestial Master traveled south that year. In the age of the mighty sword, almost all the Xuanmen masters headed north. This also includes my Wu clan. In the Western year, the ancestral Celestial Master of Shu held power over the Demon Queen, although the Xuanmen. The Witch's Gate is also known as the Mysterious Gate. But the witch sect, always just hiding in Miao, never interfere with the affairs of the mysterious realm. So, faced resistance from the ancient king and the witch king. I asked, this is the reason he bloodily wiped out the Wu sect back then. This is just one of them. The Celestial Master once made a promise to the ancient king. As long as he is willing to lead the witch sect north and do everything to help him find such a thing, when the time comes, we'll definitely share the results with them. I sneered. This so-called shared achievement. It's about robbing graves to share the wealth. You are wrong. How could a celestial master be swayed by mere wealth? What he seeks, it far exceeded our imagination. No matter what he is searching for, I only know that Grandpa ultimately opposed him. Uojuzi locked himself away in Feng village and died. And many years later, I cremated him. Not even the bones were left behind. It's just to avoid being controlled by him, including Mr. Chen and old Wang. They would rather die, nor do I want to be used by that person from the north. Of course, I will fight him to the end without hesitation. Waikun's apprehension and reverence towards that person from the north. Yu'er showed a look of disdain. My mother-in-law once said, if the wizard had been in Phoenix Valley back then, the Xuanmen Celestial Master may not be able to leave Xiangxi alive. Wizard, Waikun fell into silence until a long time had passed. He just said, but he went missing 50 years ago. Even Deist Lai did not believe he was still alive. I was surprised again. Who is Deist Lai? Although my grandfather's surname is Lai, and is ranked as the third of the Xuanmen, but he could never be called Deizhang by his fellow villagers. Uozuzi once said, Daidao Yamen, Jian Beijia's common experiences, it's just third-rate after all. Even the word two can break apart. A figure from the same era as the Celestial Master. As for his name, not many people know. If it weren't for being invited out of the mystical gate by the Celestial Master 40 years ago, I am afraid the entire Xuanmen will not remember. There is also this person coming. Just because the world thought he was dead. I asked again, so how strong is he? Compared to the Celestial Master. His strength has always been a mystery. When the 9 greatest masters of the Xuanmen were ranked, he has not appeared any more, so it's not included. But in terms of strength, it would never be beneath the Celestial Master from 40 years ago. Did they all go to the Xixia imperial tombs 40 years ago? You tell me, what exactly happened back then? I stared at Wai Kun and asked. He closed his eyes and took a puff of smoke. The flame flickers in the darkness, with a look of pure enjoyment. It seems he still refuses to speak. I asked, but it was useless. But what surprised me was, he then opened his eyes, gently said, the Western Zaire royal tombs were just when they returned. The Celestial Master instructed them to enter it along the way. As for what secrets lie in the north, perhaps not many people in the world know this. Because the 108 people who went north back then, only 16 people survived. These 16 people do not include the Celestial Master. Because the Celestial Master has always stayed in the north, still hasn't come out, and these 16 people entered the Western Zaire royal tombs in the end. A brutal fight broke out among themselves. Only 4 people survived. Respectfully, Lai Deishang, Lai Chonglu, Yuo Zhanyuan, and Zhao Chenggao. So in the end, those who were able to return alive from the north, including me, there are only 5 of us. The reason I was able to come back alive, it's because I have never been inside. My task is simply to help the Celestial Master transport 1,000 corpses to the north, and then went to the north. The body was handed over to Lai Chonglu. I am shocked. 108 people. Only 5 people survived. It seems that the choice of the ancient king was the right one. If he leads the people of the witch sect north, I'm afraid we might also face total defeat. Lai Deishang's whereabouts are unknown. My grandfather has passed away. Yuo Zuzi has also died. Yet you have never truly entered that place. So now the only thing known about the northern secrets is, it's only Zhao Chenggao. That's right. Wai Kun said with a serious expression. Zhao Chenggao ranked 4th in the academy, known as Zhao Laosi. The urgent task at hand. We must find him before the Heavenly Master sends someone south. Do you know where he is? Not far from Xiangxi. Without further ado, let's get moving. Wai Kun finished speaking and was ready to lead us on our way again. Watching Wai Kun's back, I can sense a hint of death. He no longer seems like a living person. But with his current struggle to survive, it's hard for him to even walk back home, let alone looking for the so-called Zhao Chenggao. I couldn't help but ask him, can you still continue on the journey? Wai Kun turned his gaze towards Ewer. Dare to lose control and kill. Phone number control living person. If I reach a point where I can no longer move, I'm counting on you to help me. It turns out the senior had known all along that he was cursed. Wai Kun realized he had been cursed. Ewer didn't seem to feel ashamed, just surprised. Bone King won't believe me. You will give me a bone. It is also within reason. Sio Pingan, are we going to find that person? Ewer looked at me. He is letting me decide. I thought about it. I think it's better to go there once, because I also want to know, what did Grandpa and the others actually do in the north back then? As I was leaving, I asked Wai Kun, what should we do about the body in the canyon? It wouldn't be good if someone found out. He told me not to worry so much. The Xuanmen is the Xuanmen secret. Then Lai Gang will find a way to handle it. Waikun did not travel overnight, but lead us. I found a nearby corpse moving station and stopped. It was already the late night. He let us rest first. Wait until dawn. We still have to rush to the county town. I fell asleep quickly after lying down. Until Waikun woke me up. It is already bright. I didn't expect to sleep so soundly last night. To know. Last time when I was resting with Mr. Chen at the corpse dispatch station. That has tormented us endlessly. The bites from the mosquitoes on my body still haven't gone down. But last night, it seems there are no mosquitoes bothering at all. This is somewhat unusual. Waikun took us to the local town. It's almost noon. After having a meal at a restaurant, we took the shuttle bus to Longshan County City. The journey was bumpy for nearly 3 hours. Just arrived in Longshan County City, Waikun led us to a secluded alley. A shop with the character Chai written on it was knocked on. The sign on the shop reads, "Coffin Shop." It seems like someone is taking advantage of a death, and such a person, even if one is not a practitioner of the mystical arts, it will also have some connections with the people from the Xuanmen, since it is someone Waikun knows. The people in here are definitely not ordinary. Waikun knocked on the door, but no one responded. I pointed at the character for hairpin. Is it because Chai Kayan moved away? Is someone dead in the house? Why knock on the door so early? The door opened. Several coffins were haphazardly placed in the room. A chubby man, less than 1 meter 60 tall, yawned. The small-eyed person glanced at us. Noticed Waikun. Old man, are you buying it for yourself or for someone else? Waikunda, is there a difference? There is certainly a difference. If it's to buy for someone else, I suggest you still buy 2 pieces. I can give you a 10% discount. Don't ask me. Why did you ask me to buy 2? Because you will need it within 10 days. He could tell at a glance that Waikun was a dying man. At least the fat man in front of me is not an ordinary person. I won't buy a coffin because I can't afford it, but I have something to discuss with you today. The fat man listened to this. I'm not happy about it. If you can't afford it, then get lost. I don't want to care about your matters either. Don't disturb my sleep. He said that and was about to close the door. Waikun took out the copper figurine of a half-human, half-bird. When the fat man saw this, instantly his eyes sparkled with gold. Opened the door again. This fat man is greedy. Waikunda, this thing is for you. Can I change to a different coffin? Can. Don't say a painting. From now on, I will take care of the coffins for your whole family. The fat man reached out to grab the bronze figurine in Waikun's hand. Waikun put it away, staring at the fat man. This thing can be given to you, but you have to promise me one thing. The chubby guy also calmed down, although he is greedy for wealth. But he also understands Waikun is looking for him with such a precious antique. There must be a purpose. I noticed him staring at the half-human, half-bird bronze figure in Waikun's hand. The expression gradually became serious. If you didn't come to buy a coffin, please go back then. The fat man finished speaking and slammed the door shut. So decisive. Dunster, do you know the origin of this bronze figure? Waikun said to the inside of the door. They did not respond. The more it is so, it means he knows the origin of this thing. What should we do next? I asked Waikun. Waikun looked at Ewer. Ewer nodded immediately. He closed his eyes, whispering incantations under their breath. Soon screams filled the house. Ewer was surprised when that chubby man opened the door. He'd run for him. Innocent people are led astray, achieving goals by forcing others. At this moment, I had to reevaluate Ewer. The door opened. The fat man clutched his belly and stared at Ewer with a look of apprehension. "You are a disciple of the Drum King." Wai Kun pointed at me and said, "This Lai Pingin is the leader of the Ghost Path. I need to see Xiao Laosi. This thing is your reward." Wai Kun handed him the half-human, half-bird bronze figurine. "Okay." The fat man glanced at me. He agreed decisively, but I sensed from his gaze he was not after the copper figurine of the half-human, half-bird. Only then were they willing to take us to meet Xiao Laozi. He must have because of my identity. The fat man closed the door, leading us out of the alley. He asked us to wait for him here for a while before leaving. "Will he run?" I asked Wai Kun. Wai Kun sneered. "Unless he doesn't want to remove the curse." I looked at Ewer again. Regarding his methods, I find it somewhat unacceptable. Ewer understood what I meant. With an innocent expression, "Zio Pingyan, I don't want to do this either. But there's no way. This is what I had him do. I want to see Xiao Laosi. We can only resort to this desperate measure. I can't help you much anymore. Pingyan, I have to warn you. Shuimin Jianghu, it was already a game of deception. Never trust others. Sometimes, using certain methods, it is also within reason." Wai Kun's voice was very cold. I nodded. Mr. Chen once advised, "The waters of the mystical realm are deep. One should not trust others easily." But they're words. Years later, I have just deeply realized. Before long, a black SUV parked next to us. The chubby man rolled down the car window and said, "Get in the car." This surprised me somewhat. People in the Xuanmin sect often live a life of simplicity and poverty. I didn't expect this fat guy to be quite wealthy. Got in the car. I sat in the passenger's seat. The chubby guy handed us Xiangxi with cigarettes. I refused. Wai Kun took the cigarette and asked, "It seems your coffin business." "Not bad. It's just to make a living." They didn't have a good expression towards him, but warmly called me Lai Leadi, and tell me his name. His name is Wang Xiaocheng. The name is Wang Xiaocheng. It signifies the meaning of longevity and health. Sickly since childhood, skin and bones. Parents are overwhelmed. In the end, I had to give up on him. He had someone take him to the Taoist temple in Pingdingshan, adopted by a blind Taoist priest. This blind Taoist priest, it's his master. So, this is the Xiao Laosi we are looking for. It turns out he is a disciple of Xiao Laosi. What I'm puzzled about is, with his chubby face, big ears, and small eyes, I can't believe it. He was frail as a child, frail and often ill. Even if he is sick, it should just be obesity. After leaving the county town, heading towards a narrow road, heading towards the mountainous area, the journey is not far, but the mountain road is a muddy path, so the journey isn't fast. It's good that the off-road vehicle is powerful. After walking for more than 2 hours, arrived at the mountain top. It is already afternoon. This is Pingdingshan, ordinary and unremarkable, a dilapidated Taoist temple located at the mountain top. He arrived at the Taoist temple. A rush of cold air hit my face. In the Taoist temple, there seems to be a surge of ominous energy. But the fat guy, but only allowed me to enter alone. Even he himself stopped outside the door. I glanced at Wai Kun. This temple, there is obviously a problem. After I entered the room, the fat man closed the door. The room was pitch black. The window was sealed shut, but it cannot obstruct my vision. In front of the house, on the deity platform, offering a portrait, black robe, ugly appearance, fierce and malevolent, the sword in his hand, but it made me feel a terrifying power. It's obvious. This temple enshrines an evil deity. In other words, Huan Pangzi's master Zhao Leasi. The path of cultivation is the evil way. Evil ways are no different from malevolent spirits. Thinking of him, let me enter the temple alone. I couldn't help but grip the magnetic sword tightly. You're here. A sound came from the side room. In the side room, the flickering candlelight, presenting a strange blue. Blue flame. It is evil fire. There are malevolent spirits. Senior, this statue being worshipped is. I asked the shadow in the side room. The gift conveyed a cold voice. Do you recognize the sword in his hand? The sword in hand. I examined carefully. The sword in the hand of the evil god. The sword blade is about 2 feet long. The magnetic sword is very similar to mine. Is this perhaps the magnetic sword? This sentence slipped out. I was stunned on the spot. Ghostly path magnetic sword. The symbol of the demon path sect leader. This is a magnetic sword. The statue before me, isn't it just? I dare not think any further. This is the ancestor of Eagle Mountain. Ghost path sect leader. I met the ancestral master. Hurry up and take down the monster. It turns out to be the legendary Zai Shen Ying Shan Lao Zu. He is the ancestral master of the Ghost Path sect. Eagle Mountain ancestor is an evil god in Taoism. I didn't expect that. Since I am a disciple of the demon path, I still knelt down. Just because I believe in my grandfather's choice, I offered incense to the ancestral master, banged my head. An old voice continued to emerge from the gift. Law has no righteousness or evil, no good or bad. Only those who use it can be either good or evil. Any kind of magic, it's all to help others, existing to maintain the order of yin and yang. You are the leader of the ghost path. It's Lai Laosin's grandson again. You should understand what to do. What should I do? I don't understand. What did he say? At this moment I am shocked that I never expected the top 9 figures of the Xuanmen. The ghost path only occupies 3 positions, and they are the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place. Come in. An aged voice came through. I carefully entered the gift. An oil lamp is burning on the table. The oil lamp emitted a strange blue light. It is a life-extending lamp. A gaunt old man with sunken eyes, sitting cross-legged atop the servant group. Senior, I called out to him. No response. I walked in a little. Only then did I see the lifelessness on his face. He is clearly a dead man. He has been dead for a long time, looking at the flickering oil lamp, as if it could extinguish at any moment. In front of the old man there was an hourglass. A faint rustling sound came from within, caught my attention. I looked at the hourglass, unknowingly lost track of time, until the fine sand inside quickly settles to the bottom. Zhao Leasi from the Pan-Axis puppet troupe suddenly stood up. Senior, I called out to him. He did not respond, but instead headed outside. I followed along. Zhao Leasi opened the door, stepped out of the Taoist temple. I was amazed to discover it's already dark. I remember when I entered the Taoist temple, it was clearly the afternoon. There should be at least 2 or 3 hours until dark. At this moment, how did it get dark so quickly? Could it be related to that hourglass? To know. I only got up after watching the sand timer run out completely. Perhaps a long time had passed during this. I was completely enchanted. The moon at the door and Waikun, Wan Pangzi, has also disappeared. There is no time to doubt so much. I quicken my pace, because Zhao Leosi has left. He definitely wants to take me somewhere. I followed behind him. After walking for about half an hour, in the distance a small village appeared. It suddenly dawned on me. In front of me is Zhao Leosi's soul. As the sand in the hourglass completely settled at the bottom, his time in the mortal world has come to an end. Coast Path sect member, after the disciple encountered trouble, the master must transform. Actually, Zhao Laosi started at the moment Wang Pangzai descended the mountain. He is already dead. Did Zhao Laosi use the life-extending lamp to keep the soul? It was just to wait for me to take him to the afterlife. This doesn't make sense. The simplest way of the ghost path is to walk in the shadows. Since Wan Pangzi is his disciple, then it can definitely go unseen. He doesn't need to go out of his way to wait for me. Does he still have something to explain to me? At this moment, suddenly, thick black smoke erupted from the ground ahead. A figure in a black robe emerged from the black smoke. The figure in the black robe radiated an aura of coldness. That is malevolent energy. Watching each other warily, I will chant the spell, the illusory word arrow. But the other party said to me, Su Yinren, quickly capture Zhao Chenggao's spirit and return it to its rightful place. The figure in black before me is a ghost messenger. It's also my fault for being too sensitive lately. Unexpectedly mistook the ghost messenger for an evil spirit. I stepped forward, caught Zhao Leosi. Senior, your unfinished mission. Let's leave it to the younger generation. You should go down. After I finished speaking, Zhao Leosi's soul suddenly began to struggle. Perhaps he didn't want to die, but he is already dead. His soul continues to linger. It will only leave you terrified. Even the tiniest ant strives to survive. The obsession with being alive can make one feel lost. This is human nature. I have made a ruthless decision, forcefully dragged Zhao Leosi in front of the ghostly official. A hand grasped Zhao Leosi's soul. Then black smoke began to rise from the ground, disappeared without a trace. He has left. I always feel like something is off. Just as I was about to return to the dais temple, in the distance the voice of Wan Pangzi could be heard. Brother Lai,